This video is sponsored by Squarespace. A few years ago, I was really into eBay, and it was kind of a bad habit. I would search for rare miniatures from the 90s that I thought were cool, stuff that I wish I had when I was younger, and honestly, I wasted a lot of money that way. But this is the story of how I bought one box on eBay that was worth way more than both me and I think the seller realized when I purchased it. And to this day, I think is probably the rarest and most unique Warhammer thing that I own. The eBay listing was simple. It was called something like Warhammer Sealed Lot from Estate Sale, and the picture showed a dilapidated old box which looked a little bit water damaged, but inside could clearly be seen several Warhammer sets from the 90s still sealed in their original plastic. But it was actually what wasn't in the images that I think is the most interesting and important part of this bundle. Needless to say, I won the auction for about $100 Canadian, and I paid about $50 in shipping. And this is what arrived at my door. And that's right, it is the same dilapidated box shown in the eBay images. Whoever sent this to me decided to just send me the box with everything in it with postage on the outside, only now I could see what was printed on the outside of the box. Games Workshop samples, and they are absolutely free. Curious. As I slowly opened the box to see what was inside, I started to understand what I really had my hands on here. It was an original Games Workshop retailer sample kit, the sort of thing that was presumably mailed out to potential retailers in the hopes of convincing them to carry Games Workshop products. Inside, I found not only sealed products, but also a sort of retailer time capsule, showing us what it might have been like to be a GW retailer in the 90s. When we first open the box, we are greeted with this incredible printout, which I think really sets the tone for the whole thing. It's an aged piece of paper, clearly from a retro printer, with the words, "All of this product is free," and some Eldar clip art emblazoned upon it. Below this, we can see we have a lovely assortment of sealed retro product, as well as even more interesting paperwork. So let's go through this box one object at a time. The first thing we have here is the Citadel Miniatures Complete 1999 catalog. Like everything in this box, it's in near mint condition, and also like everything in this box, I could easily devote an entire video to combing through this thing. It shows us all of the products that were available at this time, as well as the general vibe of the company in the late 90s. Personally, I've always wanted one of these catalogs, so it's great to have one from one of my favorite periods in GW history. Below this, we have the May 1999 edition of White Dwarf magazine. This is really helpful as it helps to date this whole box. It's about 6 months after 3rd edition 40k came out, Battlefleet Gothic is the hot new thing, and we're still in 5th edition of Warhammer Fantasy. We also have a folder full of interesting paperwork, which I think is the really unique thing about this box. It contains all of the retailer exclusive order forms and paperwork, which we'll get into later in this video. Beyond the paperwork, we get a ton of cool stuff in this set, all of which is in either mint or very close to mint condition. Let's start with the reason I bought this set to begin with, the Warhammer 5th edition Lizardmen paint set. But before we do that, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website and hosting platform that I've been using for over a decade now for all of my website needs. You just select a template that looks good to you, add in any modular elements you might like, and then drag and drop everything around that to make it just how you want it using their incredible new grid system. No coding or technical knowledge required. You can even change the entire style of your website even after your website has existed for a whole year, as I did this week using the Design and Site Styles menu. So if you'd like to build your own website, check out squarespace.com today for a free trial. And when you're ready to take your website live, go to squarespace.com/DanaHowl for 10% off your very first purchase of a website or domain. The Warhammer 5th edition Lizardmen paint set is still sealed and in almost perfect condition. And this was actually the main reason I bought this box, as these paint sets tend to go for between $100 and $200 sealed these days, and that's if you can find them at all. And given that I spent about $150 Canadian on this whole lot, including shipping, I think I got a pretty good deal here. And having this box in my hands just fills me with a ridiculous amount of nostalgia. This is the sort of thing I would have wanted as a kid, but didn't have the money for, and definitely not something my parents would have wanted me to have. So it's great to have it now. And of course, this box requires its own entire video, I think, so stay tuned for a video in the future where I hope to unbox and test out these 30-year-old paints. Beyond this, we have quite a nice selection of retro Games Workshop kits, starting with the classic Space Marine Tactical Squad from 3rd edition. Longtime viewers of this channel might remember when I painted some of these up about a year ago from the 3rd edition box set. And with this set, I'm definitely feeling tempted to build these and add them on to that existing army. Especially because this box came with a blister of Space Marine Scouts and with 2 new units to expand my Dark Eldar from that box as well, a jet bike and a homunculus blister. The jet bike looks like the only thing in this set that was opened by the retailer who received it, but taking a look inside, I think it's complete and we could totally build this thing if we wanted to. The blisters this set comes with are in similarly good condition, and it looks like none of these were ever opened. As I already mentioned, we get 2 Space Marine Scouts and a homunculus, but we also get some Wood Elf War Dancers and 2 Bloodletters of Khorne. And the final piece that we get here is a sealed in plastic version of the Chaos Warrior Halberdiers Regiment set. This box is a little bit warped, but everything does appear to be sealed, so that's another potential project for us to build and paint in the future. Finally, let's get to what, in my opinion, makes this an interesting part of GW history, the retailer exclusive folder. I have to say, it's quite a nice looking folder. It's quite fancily done with the Games Workshop logo. When we open it up, we are greeted with a piece of paper that I won't show you here, as it's a letter from GW Sales to presumably the original retailer who received this kit in the mail way back in 1999. And while I won't tell you what this letter says, as that feels a little bit too much like reading someone else's mail to the public, I will tell you that this letter was what made me realize what this box actually is and its significance to GW history. The letter calls this box the Games Workshop Trade Pack, and essentially it's a sampler pack for retailers interested in carrying GW products to give them a nice sample of each of the product lines: the miniatures, the paints, and the magazine. And for me, I guess that's what makes this the rarest Warhammer thing in my collection. Not the individual components inside the box, but that it's an entire retailer exclusive time capsule, fully intact, except for that jet bike that's been opened, and plucked out of the year of 1999. And although I'm not going to show you this letter, I do feel like I can show you the rest of the retailer stuff in this folder. Next up, we have the World of Hobby Games booklet, which, if this doesn't give you nostalgia, I don't know what will. Once again, I could probably spend a whole video just talking about this booklet. It is just concentrated nostalgia. But for now, I will just settle for showing you a few pictures from it. After this, we have a one-page booklet that is just titled The Best Kept Secret in the Gaming Industry. And what do we find inside? That's right, it is an advert for the Games Workshop Hobby Center. Personally, I love this so much and I want a GW Hobby Center for my home. Think about how cool it would look, like back there. Maybe I'll work towards that. They really try and sell the concept of this here as a game changer for your store, and I just love that. I think it's incredible, A+. After this, we have an exclusive copy of Trade Secrets, a monthly resource for Games Workshop Rogue Trader stores, and can I say, it's just extremely cool that they made an entirely separate magazine specifically for retailers. This magazine comes with a page of new releases with a little line where you're supposed to cut it out and post it somewhere in your store. And I just love that for some reason. Very cute. It also contains some news for retailers about upcoming games and events, as well as some tips and tactics to sell more GW product to your customers. At the back, we have a rundown of upcoming releases, as well as some adverts for Games Day and Golden Demon 99. Very cool. It really makes me wish I owned a game store in 1999. Finally, we have this nice little advert for Warhammer 40k 3rd edition, which personally I'm going to frame and hang above my bed at night. After this, we've got some order forms that I'm not going to show you, both because it's pretty boring, but also because I'm not sure exactly how legal it would be for me to show you that kind of sensitive information. I'm just going to steer clear of that, but it is in there. And that's pretty much it. That is my review of the GW Trade Pack from June of 1999. The rarest Warhammer thing that I own. But the real question is, what should I do with it? Obviously, I should test out the paint kit, that's a given. But what should I do with all of these models? There's so many of them, and each of these could easily be its own video or two. Should I use the Marines and Dark Eldar to expand my retro armies, or should I keep the whole thing sealed as a sort of piece of history? And as I haven't really been using my Patreon for much lately, I've decided to let you wonderful, generous patrons decide what happens to this box via a series of polls over on my Patreon. We will vote on all of the parts of this box and decide what sorts of fun retro videos you want me to make with it. So if you're interested, feel free to check out patreon.com/DanaHowell to vote on what happens to this incredible piece of GW history. Thank you as always to all of our lovely generous patrons for supporting the channel. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.